You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
And away we go for draft week. It's Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. How we doing, Rosie?
We're doing good. Tuned in to some basketball for my one day of the year, and my man won her, so I guess that's a good thing, isn't it?
Man, that was so sad. As a Raptors fan, shades of 2019, the Raptors win the NBA title, but Kevin Durant goes down. And the same facets, Tyrese Halliburton, who is having an incredible postseason. And the star player for Indiana, like you lose him, it is curtains and OKC wins. But that's tough to see. But I think the important thing to stress, Halliburton knew that was a possibility playing through, I think it was a hamstring injury. He knew it was a possibility of just ripping the Achilles, and that's exactly what happened last night.
Oh, that was shades of Andy or Rogers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
To zoom in on that and to see it pop.
Oh,
I think about for one game, right? Like otherwise he'd be sailing through the off season. I get why he wanted to play. He said I would never forgive myself, and I get that. But for it to happen with 160-minute game and it just pops now. Do you know what that rehab is? I mean, we could ask Patches about that. He's been through some Achilles stuff, and the guys that do, and the guys that I've talked to, it is I don't think he'll be ready for the opening.
No. I think it's at least 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst, man. For one game, it's I just can't imagine the guy's summers losing, getting injured in game 7. Oh, you feel for the guy. And when you zoom in on the legs when they pop like that, it obviously reminds me of Rogers. But that's a tough one for them, obviously. But hats off to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Nailed it that time.
Close enough. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're going to get it one day. But yeah,
Didn't
wins the
nail
MVP from Hamilton, Ontario. That's a really cool story. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to remember what happened to Halliburton in that game. But yeah, that's just difficult because I think it happened to 3 different players in these playoffs, like Dame Lillard, another guy with Milwaukee. Just the Achilles. I could only imagine what that process looks like. And he knew right away. Every time it happens, guys know right away. He is just as a teammate, I could only wonder how that feels. You're in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You just lost your best player. You know it's curtains. You're on the road too. Yeah,
a lot of rough stuff there in basketball. I mean, a lot hangs on your star players, obviously, and to lose them's brutal. And I don't know, when I got injured, it was just when you know you're injured, and it's just this disgusting feeling of everything ahead of you, right? The healing process, and the worst part is the rehab. I mean, you got to get it healed, and then I always hated it. I don't even want to move. Some guys walk around on their bro. I just don't even want to move it because I want it to heal right. And then you got so much rehab and physio to do, and that's always painful and frustrating as hell, and just the worst thing in the world. And I've never done my Achilles before. I don't think there's anything worse you could blow out to try to rehab. Every movement you could humanly make is got to do with that part of your body. So brutal for him. I hope no one really has to go through that, but he's got a long road ahead of him. I feel for him.
He does. And it's interesting you bring up OKC because they seem to be the blueprint for professional sports. Sam Presti, the GM, deserves a lot of credit. And this started 8 years ago, I remember, something like that, where Paul George was traded. And one of the pieces, there was 9 pieces in the deal. One of the pieces, they end up getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Go back. Oklahoma City has 4 first-round picks next year. They're already the best team in the league. And there's a shot of this team continuing to win and win and win. And you look at that roster, you're like, holy crap. But I know we're not really big NBA advocates on this podcast, but I look at that team, I'm like, they're just starting something. It's wild to me.
Well, excuse my ignorance, but where did he come from? How long was he good? I didn't really know that he was at that level to have one of those historic seasons to win the scoring championship, the MVP, the title, the finals MVP. That's just, I was like, where did this guy come from? And I know I'm kind of ignorant to basketball, but I didn't know he was that good.
I don't know to compare it to NHL terms, but he was a really, really good prospect, thrown into the deal, I think a couple years into his NBA career, and the development process took over. I think the NBA, more than any other league, there are guys who are really good, enter the league, and then they skyrocket. Like they take that next step and they evolve into somebody nobody expected. And it happens sometimes, mind you, in the NHL. But yeah, that's from what I understand. Like I'm not the biggest NBA guy out there, but I follow the league. I'm a big Raptors fan for sure. And I just recalled that trade vividly where there was like 5 or 6 trade swaps or pick swaps. And they accumulated so many first rounders, and that's why they're so good. Like I remember talking in 17, 18, how Oklahoma City is going to be a juggernaut. You got to hit on those picks too. But all of a sudden it's 2025 and it's like they win and they're far and away the best team in the league. And I expect them to be even better. Like just talk about development. And Gilgeous-Alexander said it last night. A lot of these guys are not even in their prime yet. Like it's a perfect storm for them.
Yeah. Scary for the rest of the league, man. Hats off to him.
Hell yeah. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. I don't know if you saw this, too, just to tie a bow in the NBA Finals. The video that came out prior to Game 7 last night of the buses, the Oklahoma City Championship buses, and Rick Carlisle, the head coach of Indiana, brought it up in his pregame presser. You start to wonder sometimes, don't you, Rosie?
About it being a foregone conclusion. That's
something like that.
That's ballsy. Like there's like 8 buses, man. It's hard to hide that. People are talking about, usually around that situation, it's like, don't even talk about winning. Don't even talk about what it would like. Don't even talk about after the game. Like we got to get there first. No, they got the buses and all the workers are wrapping it in championship logos. Not a great look. I can't imagine how they would expect that to go unnoticed or unleaked, but tough look for them. Lucky they got it done. Like imagine they didn't. Albertan like popped off and they didn't get it done in Game 7. I kind of thought they were super favorite in that, but to get to Game 7, anything can happen, and that would be a really ugly look for OKC.
Yeah, Tim Fehrenbach, hockey, please. Okay, we'll get to the hockey dynamic.
That's kind of how I feel too. But
hey, we're having fun. We're talking. Oklahoma City won the NBA championship last night, but the Bruins have re-signed Mason Lohrei, 2-year deal. $6.4 million extension. The next 2 weeks are just going to be utter chaos. And from the Maple Leafs perspective, it is draft week here, Rosie, but it's not going to be like a draft conversation in this market. The Leafs have picked 64, 86, 137, 153, 185, 217. Of note, this will be Mark Leach's first draft as director of amateur scouting. So who knows, 5 years from now, maybe he found some jewels, but I'm curious more so from the perspective of adding players who they're talking to free agency wise. I think that's going to steal the conversation the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of more thinking if some kind of trades go down or whatnot. I know the cupboard's a little bit empty for the Leafs in that regard, but that's kind of the only thing I'm thinking could make some noise at the draft day. Like you say, we don't exactly have hot shot picks, but we'll pick some brains of some of the experts and see what they see coming down the barrel here this week.
The one thing I am curious about this week, because if there's a time to do it, it's this week, Morgan Riley. Like, does it come out that the Leafs are open to having a conversation with the Riley camp? I think, honestly, in my opinion, that is a name to watch at least over the next 5-6 days leading up to the draft, whether it's round 1 or 2 to 7 on Saturday. If you're going to do the Riley thing, like it's going to happen in the next week, in my opinion.
Yeah, could. I mean, once again, they're just handcuffed by these no move clauses. I don't know. It's hard, man. Like I had this Oilers fan in my group chat who's like saying, hearing rumblings about a trade for Darnell Nurse. And I'm like, well, first I've heard of that, but I don't know, Darnell, he's got some upside. Obviously, I think about most of the heat he takes is being that he's at $9.5 million. As soon as he signed that contract, Oilers fans are just pulling their hair out at him being that high and probably not that valuable, but he's kind of a turnover machine too. I was like, wow, I never heard that before, but so many things have to go right. And I don't know, man. He's got to work some magic, man. like seeing what you see from Morgan Rielly, good player, obviously. He actually like comes in strongest in the playoffs, it seems like. What is he, 7.5? It'd be difficult, but yeah, things like that. Like I think if you see any breaking news, it would be something on the trade front this week, as this week kind of tends to be the week where that stuff happens. So we'll see. But like I said, a lot of things got to go right and fall in place for something like that to happen. It's not snap your fingers type of thing.
I love the your shit for my shit deals. They're always all over the internet, man. It's kind of hilarious whether you're on Reddit or HF boards or just X, Twitter. It's I don't know. I don't like the Nurse transaction. I know the guys over at Oilers Nation were, brainstorming. Maybe that's an idea, but like, you think Riley's going to waive his no trade clause to go to Edmonton? No offense to the city of Edmonton. I know they're close to winning a Stanley Cup, but maybe there is a lore that we don't know about of playing with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and potentially being that close and maybe going back to a cup final. But that's a big ask when you go from Toronto to Edmonton. And I don't see a fit. Like, I don't know about you. If I'm trading Riley, I want a middle six forward. I think the Leafs look pretty good in that blue line. And if you trade Riley, you get a middle six forward and then you go and sign a blue liner. Like, that would make more sense for me, I think.
Yeah, I know their back end's not a problem. You think about some of the solid games they played. It was shut down. It was protect the middle. It was kind of be impenetrable. It was win the 50 battles, find the support, get the puck out. They're solid, and we got layers of goaltending back there too. I really look at the forwards, and it looks thin, and I hope we can use that Marner money to thicken it up and find guys. But again, they don't grow on trees, and it's tough to get them here, and the whole tax conversation. So it's going to be an interesting summer. I just keep thinking forward to training camp, going, what are we going to look like, and is there going to be optimism or not? And I know that's they're a solid team regardless. You see the lines on the Stanley Cup predictions coming out, and the Leafs aren't really up there. I think they're kind of underdogged a little bit, but I like the idea of no one putting a lot of stock into them, and them being kind of quietly going into the season and being on the back burner a little bit. And it's a team where, they looked so hot with firepower and everything and didn't work out. And now if you can tweak it and do what Tree Living has said he wants to do and get some different DNA in there, it just takes the right bodies to come together and gel and get that right mindset going. And at this point, it's just a matter of figuring out who the hell that is and seeing if you can get them. So long summer ahead for sure. And, we'll pick apart the news as it comes.
I love the passion in Leafs Nation, but for example, one of my best friends was just harassing the shit out of me before the show. Like, what are they going to do? He's like, already playing defeatist. Like, we're cooked. We're done. Tree Living is going to blow this team into the ground. I'm like, buddy, this narrative that the Leafs are going to miss the playoffs, say it's just Nylander and it's Austin Matthews. If you can't make the playoffs, the two bona fide superstars, we have bigger conversations to have. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to open up that can of worms, but people need to relax with this conversation. The Leafs are going to miss the playoffs because Mitch Marner is no longer on the hockey club. It doesn't work that way, my friends. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's not basketball where you lose a star and you just implode and you have no chance.
Dude, half the league doesn't have a star player. The Maple Leafs had 4 of them.
So, yeah, I know. Too much.
It drives me insane. It drives me insane, dude.
I mean, that was the whole narrative of running it back in the core 4 and stuff. Too many eggs in that basket, and you got to thin it out. So now is the time where, you beef up the middle part of your roster and get some skilled depth and a little bit of everything. And again, I wish it was next year. And I don't have the names in front of me, but it seems like there's more options next year. So it'll be interesting to see if they go into the season saying, hey, we're not blowing our wad on this year when there's not that much availability, and seeing what they can do this season and maybe taking a real swing next year. I don't know. I hate to talk like that as it's so bloody far away to start thinking that way. But the reality is what's available, what's not. Again, I've always just kind of not really fairly, but cross my fingers thinking Tree Living can work some magic and pull some strings and make some deals that people didn't really see on the forefront.
We shall see what happens. I should mention as well, the Sheet Draft Special will be live on Friday, Daily Faceoff YouTube channel, June 27th, of course, 7 p.m. Eastern Time with Jeff Merrick and special guest Pierre Maguire. Pick by pick, they'll cover every second of the 2025 NHL Draft with sharp analysis and real-time reaction. Don't miss the Sheet Draft Special, live June 27, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Also, mark your calendars for July 1st, the Daily Faceoff live free agency special starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. 3 straight hours of chaos, contracts, and full-blown free agent frenzy, hosted by Tyler Remchuk with analyst Jeff Merrick, Colby Cohen, and Johnny Lazarus, Puckpedia founder Hart Levine, and our player panel of Carter Hutton and Matthew Barnaby, plus several reporters from across the Nation Network. July 1st, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Daily Faceoff live free agency special, live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. So coming up in about 10 minutes or so, we got Steven Ellis popping by, prospect analyst for Daily Faceoff, and he's going to give us a bit of a draft primer. I know the Maple Leafs not really involved, but I'm like, dude, you got to give me some sleeper picks for the Maple Leafs. So he's got that coming up here.
Yeah, it'll be good to have him. As I've been honest about, I'm not abreast to some of the top prospects coming out of all the different leagues and what's going on, especially when we don't have, a top 10 pick. I think I'd be a little more in depth over who's who and what do they do and what's their styles of play. But as you get down to the lower picks, which the Leafs are looking at, as you mentioned, with the numbers they've got are kind of big numbers. So it's kind of fun that way to think of what are they going after, how deep are they going, and are they thinking outside of the box? And I like the draft too. I want to ask Steven if, you find patterns in the draft. I mean, I remember when I was with Tampa, they had won the cup in 03, and they just thought their DNA was big, rugged D-man, and they drafted like crazy. We show up to camp, and I'm like, oh my God, look at all these guys. Like, their depth on their big D prospects were massive, and kind of blew up in their face that the 05 lockout happened, all the rules changed, obstruction happened, and all these guys were just, not what was going to get the job done anymore as the face of hockey changed drastically. So it's fun to find those patterns and see where teams' heads are at and what direction they want to go with their clubs.
I love this time of year, man, because everybody's a prospect analyst. They watch one shift of a prospect and they can tell you who he's going to be. So I leave this to the professionals like Steven Ellis and others. So Steven Ellis coming up in about 10 minutes here at the Leafs Nation 4-1 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. It's funny we're having this conversation because now in successive weeks, 2 really, really high draft picks, we'll say, of the Maple Leafs are now off to Europe, topping the Emila, Ronnie Hirvonen. Those were 2 big picks of the Maple Leafs in the Dubas era. And you just hate to see that because it goes from like, hey, can we use these guys as draft cap or as trade capital to like they're no longer on the radar. You go to Europe, that's a dark area, dude.
Yeah, so I'm not even aware of that where they've signed in Europe type thing.
Yeah, I just saw a report today. Topping the Emila has signed in Europe, and Ronnie Hirvonen a couple weeks ago. So it's I don't know, maybe they can rebrand themselves and find a way to be different, but it's concerning.
Yeah, it's different nowadays. Back in my day, you go over there and that's it. Like, you give up on the dream of the NHL. You no longer have your sights on North American hockey. You go over there for lifestyle to try to make some tax-free money and you're gone. You're saying sayonara. But nowadays guys do tend to come back a little bit. I think the scouting world and the eyeballs and the availability is bigger than it used to be. And some guys can go over there and play and have some hot seasons and say, hey, who wants me? Who's interested in me? And it's more of an open door to come back. But yeah, not a very good sign when your prospects are heading overseas. And it seems like it seems kind of like they're parting ways and moving on with their career that doesn't really have you in mind. So yeah, that's something that's kind of interesting, to be honest.
The following interview is brought to you by our good friends over at Greta Bar YYZ, the ultimate hangout spot in Toronto. Whether you're catching the big game, diving into some classic arcade action, or grabbing some unreal street food, Greta Bar's got you covered. Planning a team building night or a corporate event, Greta Bar is the perfect place to bring the crew together for good vibes and great memories. For more info, head on over to gretabar.com. That's gretabar.com, 590 King Street West. Greta Bar, let the games begin. As you bring in prospect analyst from Daily Faceoff, it is Steven Ellis. Must be an exciting time of year for you, Ellis?
Yeah, other than the fact that like my power went out and my air conditioning isn't working and it's 2,000 degrees outside. I just got back from New York where I was roasting in the sun all day yesterday. I am sore to begin with, and this heat wave here sucks. So other than that, yes, because at least LA's got like no humidity.
You're right. It's difficult because Rosie and I have talked a lot over the last month how I'm like, why is it 15 degrees in Toronto? Rosie, I haven't brought this up. It's like 46 now. My AC's working overtime. I'm sorry to say this. I know, Ellis. It's tough. You walk outside and you feel like you've been Sam Bennett chicken winged in the face, man. It's the tough look right now. But Ellis, this is your week. I always laugh, and you're probably not going to poke fun at this, but everybody's a prospect analyst this year. This time of year, you're actually a prospect analyst. Love to get your thoughts firstly on that. We just talked about like Niemela and Hervinen. Can you talk about where they were at a couple years ago and where they're at right now?
Yeah, Niemela in particular was a guy that I'm just surprised never made it work. I know he wasn't the biggest guy, but the moment he came over to the Marlies, it was like, okay, this is his opportunity to shine. And I don't believe he ever even played in a regular season game, did he, in the NHL? So, like, we never got to see what he was capable of. But that's also because he just didn't really improve. Like, watching him with the Marlies, like, late in the season this year compared to watching him in the first month of his AHL career, we just didn't see anything, like, improve there. So, kind of disappointed where you'd watch him and you watch William Villeneuve, and I'd say Villeneuve was better more nights than not. Like, that shouldn't be the case for your top defensive prospect. So that wasn't positive. And then Ronnie Hervinen, like, that one's tough because he just dealt with so many injuries and had to play catch up. Ton of skill. This is a guy that probably, in other situations could have made it work. But the fact is he spent too much time trying to figure out how to catch up to everybody else, and it didn't work.
Yeah, one of those things. Funny with prospects. And as we look at this 2025 draft, Steven, what's the consensus on it? What kind of players are in there? Is it a good mix of players, or who are those top guys, top 10, say? Is there a theme in there, or is it heavy, or what are people saying?
This is a year where if you need a centerman, you're going to probably, especially early, you're going to be pretty happy. You're looking at guys like Michael Misa, Caleb Desnoyers, James Haggins, Anton Frandel. There's a couple good options there. And I think you'll hear a lot of people say this is a weak draft. I will not use those words, weak draft, for this one, because the top 10 is actually really solid. Like, you could get 10 really fantastic NHL players that could be competing at very high levels very soon. It's the depth where this draft starts to kind of fall off. I think around like 24, 25, 26, that's where things are not great. So for Toronto, not having a first round pick, like, it's not a real loss for them. Obviously you want to have as many picks as you can, but it's not something where you're going to be crying because you can't get like Blake Fiddler at 26 type thing.
Who's the most NHL ready player in your eyes?
Michael Misa and I think you might know which city he's from, Oakville, Ontario. That's a guy who's got good frame. He's just, I think, under 6'2", but he just scored like 62 goals in the OHL, which is unbelievable for a draft eligible prospect. And it's not like he's like a third year guy. Like he has 3 years of OHL experience, but the first year was exceptional status year. It's not like he just had a big offensive explosion as an older player in this draft. Like, he's actually, like, he's not one of the older guys, and he still was able to go out there and put up numbers that we haven't seen since Patrick Kane when he played for the London Knights. So, outstanding season. Should he be in the NHL next year? No, and I don't know if anyone should be in the NHL. For Misa, I want to see that intensity ramp up a bit more in college, and I feel like that's a good opportunity for him, especially if he goes number 2 to San Jose, where there's not much for him going. But if he makes the NHL, I get it, because he's got that skill, and I feel like if anyone can translate that immediately to the big leagues, it's him.
And with the Leafs picks not being real high, kind of late second rounder, is there some names floating around that you think the bill as far as what Tree Living and company are looking for?
Well, it's like you look at what they've typically done in the last couple of years, and it seems like the Leafs they try to swing high in the later rounds, but they always want to get big. They want to get these big guys, like Ben Danford's a guy who likes to be difficult to play against. I've been looking at Theo Stock-Celius out of Sweden as a guy to maybe keep an eye out. He's a 6'3" power forward. Like, he's probably going to be more of a bottom 6 guy, but he's going to be a very powerful bottom 6 guy, a guy that's difficult to play against. I like Carter Amico. He's 6'5". He had a season-ending injury like in November, so he didn't get to play a lot this year, but he was probably a fringe first-round prospect before that. So the fact that he might be around in Toronto's range because of his lack of playing time, I think is really impressive. There's also Daniil Prokhorov. He's a really big 6'5" forward. You're starting to see a trend here. These are big dudes, but with him, he's another power forward guy that his stat line looks like it kind of hilarious. He had 20 goals this year, but only 27 points in the Russian Junior League. So he scored a lot, didn't get a ton of points, but he was still one of the better players in the Russian junior level, which isn't the highest level, but he still was quite impressive there. And I feel like a lot of people really started to grow on him when they realized, oh, this guy like can skate, he can hit everybody, and he's got that size. So that's what it feels like Toronto would be leaning towards. Maybe they go out there and bet high on potential and get a guy like Carlos Handel, played over in the QMJHL this past year. He was Germany's best defenseman of the World Juniors, under 18s, and the Hlinka Gretzky. So they're going to get some good options, but it's nobody to get super excited about.
Some of these guys sound like made-up players in NHL 25. Like they're like I'm already having nightmares about trying to pronounce some of these names, Ellis. Like this, I don't know. Since we have you, I've been struggling with the Russian netminder on the Marlies. Do you have proper pronouncing? Is it Akhtamov?
I think I've pronounced it 400 different ways, so I'm not even going to pretend to try like I know how to do it. Like okay. I've watched him play many times in person, and I'm like, he's just AA to me. That's good. I
call him the Russian goalie, so we're gonna stick with that until this guy's in the show. But what kind of themes have you noticed with Brad Treliving? I can't believe this is year 3 at the helm with Tree as the GM for the draft. But you intimated a bit, but bigger bodies is what we've seen a lot.
That, and like you look at especially under Wes Clark, that was a guy that was really willing to bet high on potential, and Easton Cowan could be the one that really works out. Sam McHugh might be the one from last year's draft that can maybe surprise people. Miroslav Hlinka, 5th round pick. I really like Noah Chadwick, outstanding value with I think it was the 185th pick or something like that in 2023. So they've drafted really well late, at least in relative to like where those players were projected to go. So we'll see kind of if they can go get that extra value. Like how many picks do they have? 3? Like they don't have a ton to work with, so they're going to have to bet high here. But that's the thing. They look at a guy who might be undersized, or they might look at a player who's got very little offensive ability, and they'll try and say, well, we're going to bet high on the things you're really good at and hope you can turn into something. And when you're drafting 5th, 6th, 7th round, just you're swinging anyways. You're looking for someone to be this miracle prospect. And Sam McHugh was one that I loved for them last year because I don't think anyone saw him becoming this potential legitimate NHL prospect, but I could see him becoming like a difficult 4th line player to play against one day.
Mm-hmm. And in the scouting ranks, Mark Leach, it's his first year with the Maple Leafs doing a draft here. Longtime member of the Dallas Stars. Does he have a theme that he likes to follow? Obviously they've done pretty well in Dallas, obviously. Is what kind of ideas is he bringing forth to the Maple Leafs? Does he have a type of player he seems to go after?
He likes guys that work really hard. Like when you look at when they drafted Logan Stankoven in the 2nd round, what an outstanding pick that turned out to be. But he was someone who at least at the junior level, was so competitive for a 5'8" guy. But they also got Wyatt Johnson. That's a player who competed hard, but not many people really felt confident in because he only played at the U18 World Championship that year. He didn't do any OHL hockey because of the COVID lockdown. So the fact that they bet high on his skill and his work ethic has clearly paid off. Leon Vachel, another one that I really liked a couple years ago. Artem Grushnikov could end up becoming a player for the Calgary Flames one day. They ended up trading him, I believe as part of the Kristanov deal. Another guy that works hard. So they've got guys where they're betting high on skill and also betting on just the true work ethic, which seems like something Toronto has tried to do the last couple of years. So it feels like it's a good fit.
Yeah, that Bischel guy sort of triggers Rosie because he's like 7'8", but he turtled, didn't he, Rosie, in the playoffs? Remember your boy? Where's number 6?
That was ugly. That was ugly. I can't wrap my mind around that still.
For a dude that big, it was hilarious watching him at the World Juniors a couple years ago. Like I think it was 3 breakaways in 1 overtime. He didn't score in any of them. But for a fact that like this is not like a super high-end skater guy, to go out there and get 3 breakaways as this 6'1" defenseman was awesome.
Guy's a giant.
I was just wondering, like with our, the draft comes and goes, and you get some guys, and a couple of years go by, and like an Easton Cowan, is the team pretty high on this kid, or are they just wait and see? Is there a spot for him? What do you see in Easton Cowan's future?
Easton Cowan was a guy that I don't think anyone obviously expected to be as good as he was. Like, he grew a lot. He got way more competitive. I do wonder if he is kind of just the ultimate trade bait at a certain point here. Like, I don't think he's going to be a top line player in the NHL, but I think he could be a really good second liner. Maybe it's on the wing. Maybe he's more of a support guy, but his ability to go out there and win battles, except at the World Juniors for whatever reason, makes him really difficult to play against. And I like him, but like, for a team that's always looking to be in win now mode, where does he fit in that system? Like, that's why I feel like he's like the perfect trade piece if they wanted to use that. Especially at the trade deadline this past year. I know his name was thrown around a lot, but it's got to be the right piece. And especially if they're not bringing back Marner, you got to find the way to get some of that offense back, and maybe trading Cowan to get the piece you need is the way to do it, as opposed to going to the free agent market. But who knows? There's a lot. Like, you're going to be happy with him. I'm pretty sure if he makes the Leafs in the next couple of years, he should not be in the Leafs next year. Like, give him a couple games, give him time to just develop to the pro game, like they tried to do with Fraser Minton before they trade him.
Ben Danford, last guy I wanted to touch on. Safe to say, I think they got to be pleased with his development.
Yeah, like, I always kind of viewed him as like a potential third pairing defenseman, but you still need guys like that, and you need guys that are going to block shots. And like, was he the guy I would have picked at that pick? No, but I still feel like it's a guy that's got a pretty solid chance of becoming an NHL player, and that's because he wants to work hard, he battles hard, he shoves guys around the net. Like, his whole thing of making himself difficult to beat in one-on-one situations is important, because breaking news, he's a defenseman. Not everyone is Lane Hudson or Cale Makar with the puck. You got to be still very good defensively, and that's where he's really strong. So yeah, I think that's one that should pay off for Toronto, especially like he tries to model his game after Chris Tanev, and eventually Chris Tanev's going to retire. Ben Danford is a pretty good replacement, basically.
All right, bud. See you in Los Angeles. Great stuff. Enjoyed this.
I'm excited that it's not going to be too hot there. So who would have thought going to California to be like a relief from the heat?
Oh,
Seriously.
man, it's like 67 in my condo, and like I'm right by the window, and I could just feel the heat going through the window. It's tough right now, but we're gonna get through this, Ellis. Okay,
we're gonna do it. Thanks so much, guys.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, dude.
Steven Ellis, prospect analyst with Daily Faceoff. Yeah, doesn't make sense anymore. I don't know how it goes from like 16 degrees like 2 weeks ago, and it's literally like 46 now. So
Well, it's probably humid as hell too, hey?
Oh, disgusting. It's one of those like where you walk outside and you're like, you feel like you've been punched in the face, man.
Oh, the swath and the pitters and the leaking off the end of your nose. No fun.
Dude,
so
I went for ice cream last night. Like, I couldn't even step out of the ice cream plate, and it was starting to melt. Like, it was done. I was like scooping it up, eating it.
That's why when I get out of the Canada in the winter times for a little trip, it's like it's Phoenix and Palm Springs, obviously a little closer to me, but to go to Florida or something, I can't stand stepping off that plane and just getting soaking wet and being uncomfortable and never feeling like fresh again. It's and then I remember leaving Toronto like around, late spring kind of thing and being like, God, is it humid? I don't even know what it would be like in July, August. Not for me.
Remember Vegas? Was it last year when we went for the draft? How hot it was?
I remember sitting on a patio in Vegas, and it was
oh God,
45, I think, and it was like, but at least it's dry, right? If you just stay in the out of the sun, like you're nice, but soaking and everything being wet and damp and fucking gross, man. So yeah, maybe you guys will get through that.
I love summer. I don't know. I don't really complain about the heat. I know we're discussing it, but I'd rather it be really hot than really cold. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Josh P has been adamant we discuss his trade, so we'll break it down. He wants to do McMahon and Carlo for Parayko. How do you feel about that, Rosie?
Oh,
I'd rather have Carlo than Parayko, so I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like what was Corrado saying to make up for Marner? Like, if you get Marchand, that was it Marchand, Jeannot, and Mangiapane to fill in with that. And I don't know about those. Jeannot seems to have been a big swing and a miss with Tampa, and now finished in LA there. But just that is the idea to me, right? The one superstar fancy player, and then take that money and just get some guys with some DNA that can provide wave on wave and kind of keep a team on their heels and run them out of the building sometimes, and also obviously have the skill to play the hockey and to have that identity also lead to goals and to ozone time and to win in periods and ultimately games and ultimately a series. So it's just, again, funny time of year. It's like hurry up and wait. So I don't know. I'm always checking my phone saying, I wonder if anything's going to break soon. But inevitably it will. We will know what this team's going to look like. And it all starts this week as well with the draft coming up.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I wouldn't anticipate much news until obviously Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, July 1st. I think it's interesting too, because like there's like 3 or 4 days between like round 1 and July 1st. And the draft this year is technically decentralized, which means none of the teams are going to be there. They're going to be in the war room breaking things down. So it'll come quickly. I think you'll hear some names linked to the Maple Leafs, but I don't expect much movement-wise until probably like Sunday, Monday, that time. It's preparation time right now, I think.
Yeah, it's tough to rattle off podcasts when it's preparation time.
We're killing it. We haven't even got to the John Tavares conversation. So per Dave Pagnotta from over the weekend, two sides are not close. He suggests, Pagnotta, that the Leafs reportedly recently pitched a 3-year offer worth less than $4 million per season. We all know that's not going to get the job done, but I love the tough negotiating. We've been talking about this the last couple weeks. You don't want to come back on our terms, then good riddance. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily good riddance, but it's, there's no rush to this, right? Just because that's the report right now doesn't mean like, oh my God, there's a good chance they won't get something done.
Well, if he gets to July 1, you're cooked. I think he's going to see the market. I think somebody's going to offer a Stamkos deal that the Leafs are going to get nowhere close to. And I think if you're Tavares, you don't want to leave. But somebody throws me $32 million, I will be leaving. See you later.
Well, obviously they're starting off playing a little bit of hardball, but that doesn't mean that they can't come together when it's crunch time. I think both parties want to get a deal done. Obviously, it's one of those ones where you want the most. I just wonder with John, like, why you get that report. I want to see, well, what's John's counter offer? And is it something that the Leafs would take, but they're like, yeah, let's just play hardball and see if we can chip away on this and get an extra 1.5 that we could use on maybe a Tanner Jeannot or someone like that, some filler piece, some depth piece, some bottom 6 piece that you think helps change your identity. I mean, on that, a $1.5 million player is that cap space makes a difference, and getting John to eat that or even extend it over a longer period of time, you can still get him to the dollar amount that he wants, but just help the team out. And I have trouble thinking that John is going to dig his heels into the sand and take a hard line and say no when he just had that monster deal where, you can't tell me that him making 11 didn't kind of hurt them last year in free agent. Like, you're eating up a lot of cap, and you did for a long time, and you've made a ton of money. Like, I just have trouble finding a reason for him to say absolutely not when they get to his dollar amount. And even though it's an extra couple of years, like, I just don't see the problem in that if you want to be in Toronto, if you want to win.
I get that, but I think anybody who tells you money doesn't matter, I just don't agree. I don't believe
I never
that.
said that, though.
No, I'm not saying you. Like, I
can
think
still get
people
it
in
to
general. Yeah.
And you can still get it to him on the longer term contract. Like, I get you want money in your pocket right now is better than spreading it out over time. But if at his age, with the money he's made and the last thing he has in his career that he desperately wants to do is win that Stanley Cup, I mean, he could literally, like, there would be no regrets, and he'd have done everything he could have dreamed of if he gets a Stanley Cup in his career, which has been a fantastic career. But to blow this deal up and to leave Toronto and sign with someone else and pack his family up over, it's not even over not getting the money soon enough. Like, I just have trouble believing that that'll be the difference maker with John. I just believe that he wants to be here. Sure, he's going to play hardball and it's going to sound like they're far apart, but I would be surprised if they can't get a deal done.
Yeah, I agree. And if money doesn't matter, then I think more players would go down to Florida and pay me $1 million. I'll play for you. If winning is everything. I see where you're coming from. Like, I understand, like, he made $11 million, but a guy like Tavares is not going to go from 11 million to 3 million a year. There's got to be a gap or a bridging of that gap where I've been saying since day one, like, I think the magic number will be around like 7. I know people want 5, but I think you're looking at the Brock Nelson deal if you're the Tavares camp, and that's a pretty decent comp, in my opinion.
What's that figure exactly?
It was 7.5 times 3 years.
Yeah, that's not bad. So what's the number where you are like, okay, cut him loose?
5. I don't need John Tavares back. The more I think about it the last couple weeks, the culture needs to change. Marner's gone. Is that enough? Is Marner leaving enough? Because who's been at the brunt? Who's been, I don't know, like he's so programmed. I've covered JT since he was in the OHL. Like they're just that will to win. It's I don't know. I'm okay moving on from John Tavares. I think the only way you bring him back is you got to use that leverage of this guy wanting to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. If not, then see you later. I don't think they have to be inclined to bring this guy back. Maybe you feel differently about it.
Well, it's just like, it's not like I hang my hat on him being this difference maker, but we know what he is. We know what he brings. So many positives. We don't have to list them off again, but it's not like he's the kind of player who like is distracting or is playing the complete wrong way or is not capable of buying into the Craig Berube system. If it was that, I'd be like, yeah, like we need to change it up. But, you know, his culture and his attitude and the way he goes about his business, I think is far from a problem. I don't think it's a problem at all. Mm-hmm. And I'm still heavy on, you know, Brad Marchand. If you can get him in here, like what that does to your DNA and, you know, I just picture Chiefs speaking to the team and this is what we're looking for tonight, boys. And then you go out and Brad's doing it and everyone else just has to fall into place. And John Tavares could absolutely be part of that. And if you let him walk and you get divided on $1.5 million or something and he leaves, then I start to think of like how empty the forward group looks. Like, how are you going to win games and who's going to be there to get you into a good spot for the playoffs throughout the 82 game season to help, you know, keep the positive things. I mean, if you're, I know regular season doesn't matter, but if you're losing a bunch and can't find your game and teams are beating you this way and that way, it's hard to create an identity and to have that DNA change when you're rattling off losses and everyone's frustrated and pissed off and you just don't have the personnel to get those wins. That's not a good thing either. And if there was more picking, you know, in the free agency, and I thought there was the prospect of filling his shoes easily, I wouldn't be so hard line on it. But it's just the circumstance of the whole thing makes me worry about losing John after losing Mitch.
Show me a good system. Show me a good team. The one team I like to bring up is the New York Islanders. That roster has been dog shit, in my opinion, for like a decade. And how many conference finals did they get to? How many times did they make the playoffs? I'm more inclined to think that Berube's system is going to take place and take ownership. And this team, regardless of, they're probably going to have less star power than they did the last decade. But I think the train's going to be rolling more in the right direction to win hockey games when it matters most in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I truly do see where you're coming from. And I do think that's the conversation they're debating on a daily basis. If we walk from JT, who's the replacement? And maybe there is a replacement they have in mind, but you definitely have to have a contingency plan. Meantime, again, there's going to be some names that surface the next couple weeks that have attachment to the Maple Leafs. We talked a lot about Brad Marchand, but Andrew Mangiapane, working in cohesion with Dave Pagnotta over the weekend of the fourth period. Sounds like there's mutual interest between Mangiapane, who's slated to become a UFA. He is going to market, as far as I know, after 1 year with the Washington Capitals and the Maple Leafs. If you do recall, he played for Brad Treliving in Calgary. He's a 29-year-old winger. He's from Toronto, Ontario. That's important to keep in mind. And he played 81 games last year, 14 goals, 14 assists, 28 points. I believe in 10 playoff games, he had 1 goal and 1 assist. But this is certainly a guy who I think had high expectations maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and unfortunately just never really bounced back after his first down season. And maybe there's some value to be found in his next contract here.
Yeah, well, talking to some Flames fans of mine, they, you know, everyone seems to love him. Magpie, they call him. And he kind of had a pop-off year, signed a big contract, and then just one of those guys that signed a ticket and I'm not going to say shut it down, but just instead of flourishing and taking that step and saying, I am that guy, kind of went the other way. And you've seen it a million times, you know, a guy like, God, we had such expectations of you. We thought you were on the cusp of doing X, Y, Z. So we gave you the contract and you not only didn't do that, but you maybe even took a step backwards. But, fit and parcel is everything, I think, in this game. And he's got a lot of high qualities to him. A lot of the Flames fans liked him. Obviously, I'm around the area, and a lot of people are pretty intimate with that team. I've watched the Flames a fair bit too, and I think he checks some boxes for sure. It's just there's that unknown, right? Like, what is he? Is he going to stand out, or is he going to blend in?
The other thing I'd bring up too, I think there's going to be some sticker shock with some of the contracts handed out this summer, because we got to remember the salary cap's going up. And when that happens, the prices go up, right? So normally a guy who's $3 million this year, last year, is going to turn into a guy, maybe he's 5.5, maybe he's $5 million. And I think Mangiapane is the perfect example of that. I know the contract expectation came out last week of like a Trent Frederick, and it was more about the term, but a lot of people are like, wow, 3.9 million. But you got to remember, I think in the salary cap before it going up the way it's going to this year and next year and the year after was probably, a $2.5-3 million range. But I think that changes. So I do think in general, there's going to be sticker shock. But when you look at Mangiapane, I think he makes a lot of sense. I think there's going to be value any way you slice it in the next contract he signs, probably a multi-year contract. Who knows what the dollar amount is, but I think he's a guy, from my perspective, you bring him into the Maple Leafs, he's not in my top 6. He's going to play probably on my third line. If he can score 15 to 20 goals, I feel you're probably in a good spot. And he's a guy who comes, especially in a place like Calgary, knows a bit about the system. I know Craig Berube wasn't there, but Sutter was there. Like, he's a guy who knows about the grinding way of life. And I'm not opposed to a Mangiapane coming in here.
Yeah, I hear you. And here, thinking about him on the third line, kind of more of an established guy that you can kind of rely on. And
yeah,
I mean, he stands out when he plays. You notice him. He can be dynamic. He's not, this pure skill dancer out there. Like, he can get in there and get dirty. And I think he works hard. Checks some boxes for sure. But it is funny the way the contracts are these days. I mean, when I was playing, 7 million was kind of like that, your top guy on your team. And then, Sid and some of those guys were at 8.7. Sid's been at for his entire career. But that 8 was like superstar status. And then the rest of the big dogs were kind of like 7. Like, I think Dion and Phil and those guys in my era were at 7. And that was like, whoo, money. And now, third liners are looking at $6 million and stuff. It's good for the league. It's, inflation, everything's higher, but and I'm going back a ways dating myself, but be prepared for some raised eyebrows at some of the numbers that are getting thrown around, but that's going to become the norm here.
Do you guys talk about that shit in the room? Like, can't believe that guy makes 6.5 sheets.
Not really, and not in a negative way. Like, when you're on a team, you know the guys personally, like you gel with the people that are your friends, that you have the same personalities, just like at work. Like, who do you click with? And it doesn't really matter what their production is, right? You become friends with them, and you'll be close with guys who signed a big ticket and are struggling right now, and that's on their mind. You don't really talk about it, but you're certainly not snickering, how about that guy? You're kind of more like happy for him. Well, at least he makes 4.5 sheets, right? And that type of thing. So it's just different when you're on a team with a guy. It's so much more personal. It's not like from the outside going, where the number one thing you look at is that guy makes X and he's only done this. Like, that's so far down the road when you're living and dying with these guys day in, day out on the road, everything else that comes with being part of a team with these guys.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and support his sick kids, Devlin Foyston. Thank you so much for the super chat. I think we need to focus more on Nyes and getting him locked up. Yeah, we talked about that, Devlin, a bit last week. Doesn't sound like the two sides are close, but it's not like there's a drop-dead day where this has to be done by July 1. I think it opens up the avenue, of course, of potential offer sheet. As far as we know, not likely to go down that road right now is the Nyes camp. But yeah, like, it's definitely got to be in the back of your mind that, like, we got to figure this contract out. This guy is the future of the organization for sure.
I know when I hear people aren't close, like with John and whatnot, it's like, whatever, part of the process. But with Nyes, I'm just like, and I don't know what that means as far as, because that contract with an RFA can look a lot of different ways, right? It can be a long-term deal. It can be a short-term. It can be a bridge deal. I don't think he'd be against betting on himself. And as we're talking about the cap going up and these numbers being like, eyebrow raising, if you really believe in yourself and you have the confidence that you're going to be a good player for a long time and constantly getting better, a player like that would be more akin to, take in a bridge deal, a shorter one, saying, hey, I'm going to take this. Here's a nice little, handful of years. I know I'm going to get better and hopefully the team has success. And then it's time to really dip in and be one of those big dogs. But if you sign like an 8-year ticket right now, on year 4 and then 5 and then 6 and then 7, you're feeling like, God, what should I be making right now? And obviously that's what the team's looking to get out of the guy. But, these guys and these players and their agents are no dum-dums. They know how to maximize their dollar value.
I probably know what your reaction to this is going to be, but per Elliot Friedman, the Anaheim Ducks are in significant trade discussions with multiple teams about trading forward Trevor Zegras.
Really?
Would that be somebody play center, Rosie?
Oh, baby, that you talk about DNA change. We need some of that, man. We need some of that Gen Z dick around. Fuck. That is the epitome of what we're not looking for in Toronto, is that kid right there. I'm not high on him. My kid actually likes him because he does the Michigan and shit like that. But that kid is, I don't know. I think I don't even know if he's big on social media, but just one of those new age players that, and I always think of that clip of, they're always doing, like, hockey players have always been kind of conscious of how they present themselves and be professional and show that you're focused and show that you're serious and you got a job to do and you're not happy till the job's done. And then these new kids come out and they're doing the gritty and they're dancing around in warm up and they're taking pictures with their friend at the red line and then you see their dick hitting each other in the cup and doing some jiggy dancing right before the game. And then you see old school Getzlaff, which is more my era. He's watching this. And then they walk out and he's just like, fuck me. As he walks out,
yeah,
I laugh.
It's time to retire at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's what the caption, I think, was. I think he realized he needs to hang it up. But no, a Zegras type of player, I am not interested in whatsoever.
This wouldn't surprise you at all, but did you know that he is dating one of the biggest TikTok stars in the world right now? Dixie D'Amelio, yeah.
Dixie D'Amelio. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Imagine following them around for a day. I'm gonna look.
What are you
right
guys
now.
up to?
All right.
What would
Dixie.
that day look like? What would that day look like if you're following them on a date? What would that Gen Z date look like to you?
Oh, I don't think they go out. I think they go to dinner maybe and just stare at their phones the whole time. Dixie D'Amelio. All right, let's see you here, kid. Oh yeah. Oh, not my style. Skinny.
What picture are you looking at?
I don't know her Instagram, but yeah, I was gonna say he's like an LA like Instagram TikToker, and of course he's dating a TikTok chick. Yeah, just not any type of the hockey player that I'm looking for. Skilled, does stuff with the puck that I didn't think was possible, but not interested on the direction the Leafs are going. And I will predict right now that he's not a guy who's gonna have a lot of success in the playoffs.
All right, yeah, probably not. And our guy Emilio's not in the chat, but can you do a D'Amelio for us?
What's her first name? Dixie D'Amelio. Yeah, I don't even want to give them. I'm just not into that. I'm too old.
Yeah, TikTok is not for me. There's just one platform I just haven't been able to adapt to. I just can't get to it. That and Snapchat, man. Snapchat, I just can't get there.
Oh, we just had a thing with Snapchat. My kid, he doesn't have a phone, and we're kind of old school.
What's he doing on there, Rosie?
Well, he just turned 12, so he's got like an old phone of ours. Just around the house, likes to be on it. He can kind of, we're kind of like, what are you doing on there? We're obviously concerned parents. We're not the parents. It's like, here's a phone at 10, have fun. And so he's able to dick around on that, and it's got no data or anything, but we go to get it from him. He gets it for a certain amount of time. He can't take it to his room, doesn't have it all night, all the rest of it. And then I take it to go set an alarm for him, and I see Snapchats on it, and I'm like, what is this? And his stomach drops. And so now we got a big thing on what is Snapchat? What do you do on that? Who has access to it? And I don't know, in my mind, like from what I know, it's like disappearing pictures and sending this and that. And it's just
people send news on there. Yeah.
I know, and I'm sure,
All
but
right.
then you look at his thing, and it's just him and his other 12-year-old buddies sending a picture of their hats and stuff, and it's so innocent. And he's like, "I'm the only guy that doesn't have it," so I'm in the thick of that stuff, and it's only going to get worse. But yeah, I just TikTok and Snapchat and stuff. To me, that's just opening a can of worms, and I want him to stay young and off of that shit as long as possible. But obviously, I'm going to be the bad guy while I'm trying to do that.
I'm curious. I'm not a dad, not anywhere close. When do you have that talk? Like he is approaching that age where the talk. Do you have a talk if you're Jay Rosehill?
The birds and the bees.
A lot of those.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I'm always like, if they're old enough to ask, because we're pretty open about stuff, I'm like, you can ask me anything. And we've already talked to him about like, you're probably going to be, seeing some puberty things happening. Here's what that is. Here's what that looks like. Just not to be freaked out about it. I remember going through it and going like, what the hell? Like, I didn't know any of the details. My dad was just like, don't be knocking someone up. And that's kind of all you get. But with him, I'm like, my thing was always, if you're old enough to ask a question, they're like, well, what is how are babies made? And what does this do? And I'm like, if you're old enough to ask the question, you're going to get the answer. And I probably, I don't know, they were old enough to ask that question. I told them what sex was early, mom and dad, how babies are made, where they come from, where they come out of, everything. And I'm like, if you're old enough to ask, I'm not going to give you some bullshit answer. And my wife was like, what the hell did you just tell our kids? And I don't know, it's always fun navigating those waters as a parent.
I love it. I don't know how we got to this conversation, but anybody in this chat's around our demographic, you all remember LimeWire. Or I'll just say the accessibility a lot different in 2025 than it was in 2005, 2004. You'd have to wait all day for some videos to download where it's 2 clicks away, man. That's more of a conversation I'd be having these days.
For it to infect your computer. Yeah. That's
the other thing. There's always a chance there's a virus pop. There's Trojan virus,
Oh, big time. It's so hard. Like when my kid was so young, him and his buddy were on an iPad for kind of the first time, and they realized you can just, whatever you think of, you put in this bar, and they're old enough to kind of type it out, and they type boobies. And I'm like, here we go. And then I'm like, what does boobies get you when you hit that in the Google bar? And it's way too easy to find. I don't know. My kid's pretty good, pretty innocent, and it's just, but 12, man, he's coming down the barrel. The next year, 2 years, we're going to be in the thick of it.
On the next Leafs Morning Take, we talk more about X videos and Pornhub. Stay tuned. With that in mind, it's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. Any bets throughout the week? I know I saw a lot of draft props out there, but the one thing I am monitoring, we didn't get to with Ellis, is James Haggins, who is a Long Island kid who came out and said he wants to be an Islander, but unfortunately they have the first overall pick. He's probably going 4 or 5. So if you can find a way to maneuver, one of your bets, Haggins is like, I think the Islanders are talking to a couple of teams. I've heard them linked to the Boston Bruins, who have the 7th overall. The kid pretty much, he's like, I want to be an Islander. Who does that?
That's pretty wild, especially when they got the first pick. You're trying to move yourself up. It's not a bad play, but I always think it's cool. Like, I don't know, if you really feel like it, like there was like movies made about it, like Draft Day with Kevin Costner is a great one where there's just this wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. I think one of the greatest ones, and I think we've had, I don't know if Burke has talked about it on this show, Brian Burke, but when he was in Vancouver, like the hoops and the wheeling and dealing and trying to connect the lines to try to get the Sedin twins was unbelievable. And he pulled it off, which is very difficult to do. The movie Draft Day is very fun, how he, looks like he's unloading things and like melting down, but he's got a plan and it comes to fruition. He ends up getting who he wants and keeping XY picks is pretty neat. But if a team feels like they see a deficiency in the top couple of picks and nobody else does, and like something bothers them where they just they see a pattern of like losing confidence or something weird, and they really like something down the line and they trade their pick for a whole bunch of shit, and they end up, getting the guy they wanted, trading away the first pick where they get a whole bunch of assets back. It's cool to see that stuff happen in the first 5-8 picks. And so I'll keep my eye open for any of that maneuvering going on. But like I said before, I'm not real in depth over these prospects coming up. I do better hearing about them and then researching them after than knowing all about them before their name's called.
Yeah, there's only select people on this globe who actually know these prospects. As much as we want to say we've seen one shift, this guy's a stud, he's so good, going to change the course of the franchise, we have no fucking clue. Anyways, Rosie, great stuff today. I guess the next time I talk to you will be from Los Angeles on Thursday. You're not in tomorrow. Carter Hutton's in the mix, and Andy Strickland's going to be by from the Cam and Strick podcast, and it's you and Zach on Wednesday. So I'm back with you on Thursday as we get set for the draft on Friday. How about that?
All right. Looking forward to it. Yeah, Strick, I went on their pod last year.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah, last year it was fun. Good dudes, obviously Cam Jansen guy. I played against a lot, and it's funny how much Strick is in on like specifically the Toronto Maple Leafs rumor mill. It's pretty funny. So see you guys pick their brain about that.
Yeah, we're going to get to the bottom of that with Andy Strickland coming up tomorrow. The latest on one Mitchell Marner. I know Rosie's tracking his phone on a minute-by-minute basis to find out if it's Vegas or Los Angeles. Sounds like those are the two teams to beat here, Rosie. Vegas and Los Angeles.
Yeah, and
hey, did you see my tweet from over the weekend?
Maybe. Which one was it?
I got the Marner crowd's not happy with me, but I just came out and said, like, I think it's so ridiculous that the Marner camp won't have any conversations right now. But on July 1, once the market opens, they'll let the Leafs like pitch like that. That's
he's so butthurt with the Leafs, eh? Like, you know, not that I don't hack on him, but you don't want to hack on him all the time while he's on your team. But every time he does an interview, I'm just like, what is your goddamn problem? You know, like, why are you have such a chip on your shoulder? You give these little short, curt answers all the time, like little statements like, why do I have to tell you this? And you should know this already. And this is bullshit. I have to be here. And it's just like it's that vibe all the time. And now that what he's doing with the team, and it's just so clear that he's totally butthurt and bitter about whatever it was. Like be a difference maker then, you know, like don't let game 5 happen. Don't let game 7 happen. What game 7? All of the game 7s, you know, and like whatever, dude. What about him taking like lower term? Like, is that even, I keep seeing the Mitch Marner stuff. He's thinking about a 3-year deal and a 2-year deal. And do you think he's in on that? Or who knows, man? Be interesting when it's done and over and we don't have to really associate him with our team that much. Cause yeah, as much as I was in favor of him leaving, now I'm just like, get out of here. You know, everything about him just seems to be bitter. And this is the team that we care about. There's so much passion. People love it and want it to go in the right direction. And he just, like I said, it's just so clear that he's bitter.
Yeah, the report was that Mitch Marner's camp reportedly offered the Leafs a meeting, though it's unclear if they will attend. Like, imagine you're with an organization for 10 years. We won't talk to you right now. We won't let you trade my rights. But hey, July 1 rolls around. You can have a meeting. So I subsequently tweeted that enough people are talking about this absolutely embarrassing stuff. 10 years with an organization and city that gave you everything. And this is how you're going to treat them on the way out. Treated like gods here. And then I added a tweet. So fucking petty. A lot of traction.
You know what I'd do? I'd set up the meeting, like with his dick in it. I'd set up the meeting and be elsewhere and have him sit there by himself with his agent. Fucking beat it, buddy. Go sign. Like, go. It's going to be fun to watch. And he's a good player. He's going to put up a whole bunch of points and stuff. But like, say he gets into intense series, I'll be watching every game of it to see if this guy, is able to figure it out. Like, it's of my opinion that he doesn't have it in him to play the way that you got to play, and what we just watched in the finals, and to get that over the hump. He had every opportunity in the world. He was here forever. They ran it back how many times? It was up to him to change and to say, I know what it takes to be a player that makes a difference in these types of games. He never even attempted to reinvent himself or add layers to his game. And I'd be surprised if he does elsewhere, but I'm going to be watching. It'll be fun to see how he goes on down the road of his career and what kind of differences and impact he makes with another organization.
Speaking of bitter, our guy Leafsland's back in the chat after he was MIA for the last couple of weeks, but he said Rosie should sell his hair to the less fortunate like Nick. Then he goes on, Nick has the ability to check all his 2 POF
not
messages
bubble.
and still pay attention to the podcast. LOL. Hashtag kudos Blinky. I guess he thinks I blink a lot, but shows you how old this guy is. Plenty of Fish was big 20 years ago, dude. But
You do.
I got a rivalry
the,
with this guy, man. He got pissed because I blocked him on Facebook.
I did notice that you still use his avatar for your Twitter, though.
I know. I should get rid of that, eh? Yeah, I've got his great avatar that he made me. It's a cartoon. I got to get rid of it, but it's good. It's kind of funny to see yourself as a cartoon, man.
It is. That's what was fun about it. But yeah,
he used ChatGPT, by the way. Yeah.
I know. It is all good. Let's all get along, Nicky, Bobby. I laughed there at the hair thing. I think I threw a snot bubble over my mic here, but we'll be all right.
Is that what happened there?
Just about, yeah. Felt like it.
Hey, man. One day I might just end up in Turkey and you guys are going to be like, where's Nick? And I'll be like, hey, I'm doing the show in Turkey today. I'm just taking in the ambiance of Turkey, but then I'm going to come back.
You don't need to go to Turkey. Jesus, man. Fucking, you do. People do talk about your appearance a lot more than I would expect on this
I know,
show.
Man. Maybe I just I incite that type of response in the way I do the program.
You do incite a lot of reactions to people, but yeah, for a show that was not about a whole lot. We're at an hour and 6 minutes here. I did not see that coming today.
Well, we talked about butthurt people, Mitch Marner and our guy Leafsland, who goes by an alias Leafsland and in the age of 55 years old, and pissed that I blocked him on Facebook.
We talked about making sure my kid doesn't turn into you in the future.
Yeah. An array of topics were covered on Leafs Morning Take today. Join us tomorrow. Andy Strickland in the mix and Carter Hutton. We'll talk then. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.